we could just jump into it. How's your day been so far, by the way?
Pretty good. Yeah, I had a nice lunch meeting today, and I'm working on some prototypes for a playtest tonight. So yeah, it's going well. How about you?
Going pretty well as well. I've got this support drive thing that I launched in December just to since Board Game Geek does one as well. They've got about 5,500. I got 17 supporters so far, but that's 17 more than I had at the beginning of the month, so that's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
As like a quick background for the people watching the interview, you are the owner of Stonemaier Games. You have like tons of top 100 games: Viticulture, Scythe, Wingspan, Tapestry, Between Two Cities, Charterstone, Euphoria, and a few others as well. Can you just, from your own words, give a background about you and why you started the company and some of the favorite things you've had over the last few years?
Yeah. I should have said this at the beginning. My name is Jamey. For those of you who don't know me, but and like you said, I run Stonemaier Games. I've run it full time for about 6 years now, and I launched the company a little bit before that in 2012 with the Kickstarter, the original Kickstarter for Viticulture. That was my first self-published game, and we've grown from there. I think we have 9 games out right now. About half of them are designed by me, and about half of them are developed by me but designed by other people.
And so, why are you shifting to less designed by you than initially? Is that a new trend?
We started doing that in 2015, I think, with Between Two Cities, for two main reasons. One being my limits on my time, because I spend most of my time just running the company, and then I spend maybe 5% of my time designing games, and that was becoming the trend back then, where I was spending more and more time running the company and less time to design. And also, I have a number of limitations as a designer, just in terms of creativity and skills. I think some designers are very skilled at making different types of games. I think I'm more focused on like medium weight Euro games. That's
Mm-hmm.
my sweet spot. And so I kind of realized that if I want to have a variety of games that reach a variety of different people, I need to reach a variety of designers as well, and not just rely on myself as the designer.
That makes sense. So, are you like signing with different designers as they come up, or do you have any that are working full time for you? I heard you hired your first full time employee pretty recently. Is that right?
We did, yeah. Joe is our community, which will actually give me more time to focus on design. I'm not really looking forward to that. But no, we don't have any in-house full-time designers other than myself. They're all people who have submitted games to us in the past. I have worked with Ben and Matthew, who did Between Two Cities and Between Two Castles. Worked with them a couple times, but I loved working with Elizabeth on Wingspan and Hobie on My Little Scythe, and one more designer of a game that we haven't come out with yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in your pipeline, it looks like you have 4 titles coming out next year and 3 that you've said coming out the year after, like half expansions, half new games. Like, what's your kind of strategy going forward with that?
Yeah, for a while now, it's been the Days of Wonder strategy of putting out 1 or 2 new games a year and really focusing on those 1 or 2 games, and then putting out a few other ancillary supportive products like expansions and accessories. And that seems like a good trajectory for us, I think, because I like to stay small and nimble, and I like to really focus on those games. I don't want to release like a dozen games every year and have most of them get lost in the shuffle and not be able to focus on most of them. I'd rather put out a few games that I really believe in and put all my effort into those games.
Makes sense. And so, you mentioned Days of Wonder. Are there other publishers that you admire and look up to?
Oh, tons of them, yeah. Early on, I learned a lot from Greater Than Games, who are also here in St. Louis. They publish Spirit Island and Sentinels in the Multiverse,
Right.
and Tasty Minstrel Games. Michael Mendez over there, he was one of the early people, the first people to write about tabletop games on Kickstarter, and so I learned a lot from him, from what he had put out when I got on Kickstarter. And there are a lot of up and coming games like Thunder Griff. I love what they're doing. I love what's the company that does the Gavin Brown Roxley Games. I love what Roxley's
Oh,
doing.
yeah.
Yeah, just other companies that are kind of similar to mine in that they only put out 1 or 2 games a year, but they really put all of their creative energy and marketing efforts into those games. I love seeing that from other companies too.
That makes sense. I kind of like you were mentioning the Wingspan AR with. Like, are you looking to do more licensing deals where you're licensing out your IP? Like, is that an expanding part of your business right now? Tell me about that.
A little bit, yeah. So yeah, we were talking right before we went live about the Wingspan augmented reality app. that's a bit of an outlier. Wingspan itself is a bit of an outlier. More what we're focusing on are licensing the tabletop rights to companies that make digital versions of our games. To me, that seems like a great way to reach more people, either people who want to play our games with other like friends around the world or strangers around the world, or they want to learn our games, but they don't want to read the rule book. A lot of times apps are very good at that. And so I'm trying to basically get all of our games in digital form and cardboard form. Do you have any digital games that you really love, or digital ports of board games that you really love?
I've only played Dominion and Ascension in digital form, and those work pretty well. The apps I wouldn't say were the best quality, but it allowed me to play the games and enjoy them a bunch and connect with people and it felt like it was filling the void that I had in my heart where I wanted to play Dominion. I wanted to play Ascension more, and I couldn't get friend groups to play it as often as I was hoping. But I haven't really played many other board games unless you count like Texas Hold'em poker. I played that for a lot, actually online. I just for some reason it just feels a little weird, or I'm just not as like if I'm gonna play a video game, I would rather just play like a RPG or something. I think, and when I want to play board games, I want people around the table and coming over for dinner and stuff. And so that's the experience I've had so far.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that too. Every once in a while, I hear about a game that I just want to play and learn from, like right now. And
Yeah.
if that game has a digital version, it's handy to be able to do that. I did that with Star Realms a few months ago. I was like, I just want
Okay.
to play Star Realms, and they have a free app, so that was nice. But in general, I think I'm similar to you. I greatly prefer to play games with people around the table in real life.
I think the only other like reason I would want to is if like I get into a game and like in terms of like the competitive nature of it, like Magic the Gathering, I think makes a lot of sense in digital because then you can grow in the skill level and play with other people. Whereas like mostly I play games just to spend time with my friends, and that's why I wouldn't really see myself playing online unless I'm like really focused on getting better and understanding strategy more and stuff like that.
I can see that because you can burn through a lot of games in a short amount of time if you are trying to increase that skill, or
Yeah.
with Magic, like build a better deck. Um, that makes sense.
You mentioned earlier as well that you began through Kickstarter, launching in viticulture there, and like over the years, it feels like you've been pushing away from Kickstarter, and you've written a lot of articles. Can you give me kind of your current thoughts on the platform and what it is for the hobby and all that?
Yeah. Um, I ran 7 tabletop game related Kickstarters from 2012 to 2015, with Scythe being the last one in 2015. And then after Scythe fulfilled the backers, I decided that I didn't really want to use Kickstarter anymore if I didn't have to, and so I haven't used it as a creator since. But I still I love seeing the innovation that people are bringing to Kickstarter, both on like the style of projects they're running and also just the style of games they're running, that I don't know if they would always see the light of day if they didn't have that upfront funding, that upfront gauging of demand and community and all that. So I love what Kickstarter brings to publishers big and small around the world. And I'm still an avid backer myself. So other than little glitches here and there, I really like what I'm seeing. Have you backed anything lately that you're excited about?
You know, I haven't backed more than the only game I've actually backed. I've backed 2 Kickstarters that are tabletop related, and they're both Roxley. So I backed Dice Throne Season 2, and then I backed the poker chips that they had that were also like game upgrade components because they looked amazing and lovely. Those look amazing. I'm excited because they're coming in January, maybe February now with some delays. But I used the platform myself a lot in 2018 as a creator as well. I made custom gaming playmats for Magic the Gathering players, and then I also published 3 of my own board games through the platform, and it was a lot of fun. And I experienced this like, about 1,500 sales for the various games through that 1 month of Kickstarter, and then like 25 sales the 3 months afterwards because it's just like such a huge drop in marketing and my ability to talk to people. And so it feels like it's a great way to launch, but I'm trying to learn like how to grow an audience. And I feel like you've done that really well. What would your thoughts on how to grow it? Because at this point, it doesn't feel like you need Kickstarter because you have that huge audience. Like how have you grown it, and what advice would you have for me?
Yeah. That's a good question. So I would. The audience certainly does help in terms of uh, people who are passionate about what we release, what Stonemaier Games releases, and it's also helpful in terms of gauging demand, which is another thing that I use Kickstarter for, because I can kind of poll people about what they want, what they like, that type of thing. Um, and it's really just been it's partially it's been a slow burn. Like I have a decent number of e-newsletter subscribers at this point, for example, but that number started out as zero and
Right.
in 2012. So it's just been that's 7 years. So we have I think around 50,000 now, which is great for 7 years. But that spread out like on a day-to-day basis, that's not that many. It's just been incrementally like every day having a few other people discover Stonemaier Games. But I will say that one other part of that that has really helped is I've seen the biggest jumps in those subscribers when we have had a visible hit, like when Scythe was being anticipated and when it was on Kickstarter. I think that year we added like 15,000 subscribers. So having that like very visible thing that people are talking about and want to know more about and want to get a notification on when they can learn more, when they can buy it, that certainly helps. And that I don't know if there's a magic answer to that part of it.
Just make good things is the sound it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
uh, Kind of in line with like making good things. You got some flack in recent discussion for like the balance of Tapestry and how you just recently released some updates to help with balance. And like, are you doing something to work on quality, or what's your response to that? Because from my standpoint, I feel like games are very difficult to test in comparison to like video games where you can release an alpha or a beta and have a bunch of people test it without any real negative consequence because you're not printing out a whole bunch and manufacturing a bunch of things. But in board games, you have to get as much testing as you can. You're limited on your people in-house that can test, or friends, or early adopters at cons and things. And so, like, what are your thoughts on balancing and testing?
Well, balance is a huge priority for me when I blind playtest in particular. So usually my game design process is I playtest locally quite a bit until I think a game is fun enough and balanced enough to send out to blind playtesters around the world. And I have a very good group of blind playtesters that are willing to like out digital. Um, the recent criticism has been really interesting to see though, because we blind playtest games hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And for an asymmetric game, for any asymmetric game, I pretty much know that no matter how much we playtested, I could have playtested it thousands of times. There's still a difference when you're playtesting an unpublished game versus when tens of thousands of people are playing it and reporting that data and finding things. Like you said, in the digital realm, it's a lot easier to scale that up early on, but for tabletop, it's a lot more difficult. So I'm always looking to improve the process, but having 400 playtest sessions of a game I'm pretty satisfied with that. Like I wish we could have caught some of the smaller things, the smaller imbalances, but even the tweaks we made are pretty minor. Yeah. And I hope people are still having fun with Tapestry, even if they play a weaker faction and lose, or play a stronger civ and win.
Yeah, I think the power of having the early play tests is you get most of the big things out of the way. And even if things are balanced, I've learned that people feel like it's unbalanced and then declare that it is. And so that's something to like wade through those comments. Are these legitimate claims that it's actually unbalanced and there's a lot of data, or is it just the feeling of it and people just wanting to feel like they always have a chance, even when there's a bunch of variance in a game that can make or break some plays?
Right. And I think both are relevant. That's why when I collect playtester data, I get the hard data, I get the scores, the winning faction, the losing faction, but I also get their anecdotal data, what felt overpowered to them, what felt underpowered to them. I think both are relevant during the playtesting process and beyond.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I think in the first Wingspan edition, there's some like errors in like the text and some things. Is there like something that you're working on to make sure that that kind of like editing and stuff gets taken care of before it gets to the first print run?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was one particularly embarrassing one. Typos are going to happen, but there was one, and this is the thing that's really tough to catch. Very late in the process, we made uh, a we made a change to a bird. I think we like fixed a typo on a bird.
Mm-hmm.
And when my graphic designer was making that change, she accidentally put an extra e in the word between.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it happens. Human error. These things happen.
Yeah.
But it was a global change somehow. I think she was, it was probably a find and replace error, and so we ended up with between with two e's or three e's in a row, and because it was so late in the process, and because it wasn't a change that I requested, because like when I request changes to my graphic designer, I check them to make sure they're made correctly. But if a new error is introduced, I'm not looking for it at that point.
Right.
And if it's really late in the process, then we don't always have a proofreader who's going to look at it at that point either. And that's what happened with Wingspan. And so what I've done is I've added an extra stage of proofreading until there are no errors, basically. Because whenever I learned from that, basically, that even if we're making one little correction, that could introduce a new error. And so we need another proofreader to try to catch that error.
Right.
And so hopefully I get to the point where the proofreaders aren't suggesting anything else so that we don't have to introduce any new changes to the document. So it's just an extra level of proofreading, and maybe sometimes extra levels of proofreading.
Makes sense. How big is your team right now? How many employees and contractors do you have?
A lot of contractors. I'm still technically our only full-time employee. I have my co-founder who works a few hours a week. I have Morten in Denmark who is part-time. He mainly works on Automa and solo stuff. And Joe will, like I mentioned, he'll be full-time in a few weeks. But it's just me. But we have I contract out a lot of stuff to the proofreaders, to play testers, to lawyers, accountants. I would say, dozens and dozens of people, maybe 50 plus different contractors doing little specific jobs here and there.
What are your future plans? Are you going to grow the team, or are you going to do more? Like, what's the future for Stonemaier looking at?
I think I don't. Well, my best guess is that we'll stay pretty similar to what we are now. The adding Joe will be new. I think I haven't had to really manage an employee in a long time, and Joe isn't someone that really needs much management at all. So I think I think adding him will be the really ever need to add. But we'll see how that goes. I think it does help, since I only publish 2 new games a year, and then we're reprinting the older games. Not a lot of growth in terms of like time every year, time and resources that are going into new products are really needed. If we ever wanted to really ramp that up, things could change. But I think we'll stick with that 1 to 2 game method. You said you put a few games on Kickstarter in 2018. Do you have any other games or products in the works?
I'm focusing most of my effort right now on BoardGameAtlas.com and building that as a community and place to discuss and see and find information on board games, as well as Board Game Prices, which I bought about 2 months ago. But as I was developing games in 2018, I had 2 more in the pipeline, and the reason why I started Board Game Atlas was because I was waiting on art. And so I was thinking I should work on a way to market my games. I'll make a little search engine, and then when it gets used, I can pop mine in as little ads or something. But it just turned into something that it felt like it was solving a need in the board gaming community, and so I've been working on Board Game Atlas full-time, which means the 2 games I had fully developed and tested and all that are complete, but now they're in the hobby stage where I'm just like, if I have extra time, and it seems like I'm getting less and less of that, then I would publish them. But I have all the art and all the playtesting and everything ready, and the box art and everything. I just haven't had the desire to push it out onto Kickstarter because the margins are so difficult, and marketing and takes so much more time than I was expecting, and just learn it's a ton of work to be a small publisher.
Yeah. I agree. It is. It's a lot of work. I think people sometimes underestimate it until they do it for the first time.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun process, and I feel like if I kept going, I could learn a lot more. But it just didn't feel like, my superpower is more on the software development side. So just going full into that has been, I think, better for the business on my end. Do you think if Asmodee or Hasbro were to come talk to you about acquiring you or bringing all your stuff under their house, is that something you'd be interested in? Or would you one day become a Hasbro where you have all these big intellectual properties, or Asmodee where they have lots of gaming names underneath them?
I haven't really thought about the second one. Well, there are a few acquisitions that I've thought about over the years, but I haven't really pursued them. For the first part of the question, if one of those big companies came to us and they said, Jamey, you can continue to operate and run Stonemaier Games as an independent studio, I would consider it. Yeah. I think that it's that independent nature of pretty much doing my own thing, having them trust that they like what I'm building and my methods. I think that would be something that I would be open to. But if it was, and that's how Asmodee has done a number of their acquisitions. So if it was something different than that, I don't think I would. What do you think? Because I've heard some people hear that type of thing and they think, oh, you're selling out now. Or they associate other things with Asmodee. What's your impression of a company that's acquired by a company like Asmodee?
I think I think you have the right approach. If you can act independently and do the things that your fans are really loving and have come to know, that's a great deal, because that gives you a lot more resources and ability to scale up to be bigger and have more fans discover. It does probably put pressure on you. I know that in the case of Hasbro and Magic the Gathering as a relationship, they're pushing Magic the Gathering in places where traditionally they haven't gone, but that produces great stuff. Like the new MTG Arena has been one, and they're doing a Netflix show and doing all this stuff with their intellectual property that if they were just to be left alone, I don't think Wizards of the Coast would have pursued all those things. Maybe they would or not. But because they have this extra support, they get the chance to and get to grow in bigger ways. So it's just where you want to go, and if you want to be pushed in ways you weren't comfortable with before, but a bigger opportunity. I think that's kind of the way to look at it.
Well, I like that you let off there with the fans. If as long as you're not actually betraying the people the people that have brought you to where you are today, brought my company to where I am today, then it's something to consider. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many, I think the nice thing about the board gaming industry is how many what seem like big publishers, like Stonemaier Games, feels like such a big house in terms of producing amazing content. Or now Leader Games is growing after the big success of Root, or Cephalo Fair with Gloomhaven is starting to do expansions, and Frosthaven's coming out and their Jaws of the Lion. And then learning about how most of these just have one, two, a handful of people running the whole company, and it feels like all these games are becoming staples in every house. That feels inspiring as someone who I last year made a few games and it had not success or minor success, and it could, if I put the work in, make something great. How do you feel like the industry is going in general? Do you feel that we're getting more mainstream, or do you think there's a bubble in terms of how many publishers are coming out and that a lot of companies will go out of business? What are your thoughts?
Well, I am curious myself to see what will happen, because it given the resources out there now, and really just in the tabletop space, the trends I've seen of really quality Kickstarter campaigns and really quality games that are coming out, there's more and more of them, opposed to maybe 3 or 4 years ago when a lot of people were trying, but I don't think the quality was quite where it needed to be for a lot of people to succeed. So I'm seeing a lot of success, and I'm curious to see if a lot of those creators will follow it up with multiple games, or if they'll just be happy with the one Kickstarter hit that they had. I don't know. I'm honestly curious to see myself what happens. Yeah. What do you think?
I think I like it feels like board gaming in general kind of feels like the current place that it's at. It's like video games about 10 years ago, where for a long time video games were this, video game culture. The people who played it are guys who are just wanting to play video games, and it wasn't really approachable by most people because they're difficult or the themes weren't very interesting to people outside of that culture. But then games became more fun and approachable with like the Wii, with mobile games, and I think mobile games especially. Like now, 95% of people have played some sort of video game in their life, and I think in board gaming we're kind of seeing that similar trend. Like it was, I think, began around the time when games like maybe Apples to Apples, Cards Against Humanity, Exploding Kittens have come out. It's not the games that board gamers would consider good games, but they're the types of games that most people have played and now is on your shelf that isn't Monopoly, because when most people think of board games right now, they think of Monopoly and how it was family destroying and just terrible for relationships. But then you think of games now as Exploding Kittens is like 5-10 minute game that's just fun and light, or Cards Against Humanity, or even like ones that I like a lot, like Codenames or Just One. These really easy to grasp, bring to your family gathering, get people playing games have been awesome for the hobby. And I think those are kind of like the mobile games of board gaming where it's really easy. A lot of people will have them and start playing it. And that could introduce some, but just the fact that it's becoming an option for entertainment. You can watch something on Netflix, a movie, or play a video game, or play a board game now. It just feels like it's going to be another choice that most people have in their homes to do with family or friends.
Yeah, I think that's really, really well said. I would add to it one little theory that I have. I don't know if there's a lot of truth to it, but I think that board games are somewhat like exponentially cyclical when it comes to people who have kids. Mm-hmm. Because if I don't plan on having kids, but if I did have kids, I'm sure I would instill my love of board games in them. And then when they grow up, they will probably also play games and instill the love of playing games with their kids. And so I wonder if there's almost a cyclical generational aspect to it, where there's a certain number of people who grew up playing games, and now those kids are now of an age where they can actually buy and afford games, and then it'll happen again. And that's like my main theory why I don't think board games will die out even as VR and other digital games grow. I think those will continue to grow as well. I think there's something about that family aspect that I think will keep it alive.
Yeah, and I think just like the quality of like the game design and the game components and the shelf presence it has, I think is all adding to it to have a lasting effect in the world. I kind of like, this is more of like, for me, I want to know how to grow my own marketing and stuff. Like you've got a YouTube channel with over 20,000 or almost 20,000 subscribers. You got Twitter, Facebook, your email lists. What has been your best and most effective marketing channel, or do you feel like it's a good balance of all those?
Variety, I think, certainly helps, but I am just a huge fan of the e-newsletter. It's so easy to sign up for it. It's such a low commitment, and it's like with all those other formats, unless someone remembers to actually subscribe or remembers to check it, they're not going to get a notification. But if they sign up for that e-newsletter once, and you don't betray their trust or bombard their inbox, they're going to get that notification in their inbox. And I don't know, you probably know the numbers better than I do, but I bet pretty much everybody checks their email once a day, and so they're going to see that e-newsletter, whereas they may not see those other formats. So I really love the e-newsletter. Do you have an e-newsletter for Board Game Atlas?
I've got email lists for Board Game Atlas, and I've adopted the one from Board Game Prices. So I think combined it's around 15,000 subscribers. And like I've learned that each of the audience kind of wants different things. I did a little testing for the Board Game Prices. Do they like the content that we're sending out for Board Game Atlas? And the unsubscribe rate went up a little bit. And so just focusing, like they subscribed because they wanted to get notified about sales or deals or whatever. And so learning that each audience signed up for a specific purpose and making sure, like you're saying, don't betray them with a bombardment of email, that especially if they're not looking for it. So I think that's been like the winning strategy for me, is just ensure that the things I'm sending out are quality and not too often, unless it's Black Friday, I'm sending sale notifications because every game staple is now on sale. And so that was an exciting time, and I was doing a lot of sitting at my laptop during Thanksgiving to just check the sales and stuff. But it's fun. I think the the big things that I like about board gaming, because I even myself feel like I'm pretty new to the hobby, because in college, like 10 years ago when I was going to school, I actively avoided my friends who wanted to play games and talked about. I wanted to play Super Smash Brothers. I wanted to just go watch movies and hang out with friends. And then, so that meant, I don't even know why I started making games for fun, because I didn't like them, but I thought I'll just make my own card game. And then it turned into making and posting them on Kickstarter. And then I started enjoying board games and the hobby in general. I think this is such a fun community to be a part of. I like how on Board Game Geek there's a big focus on lists and talking about games and going deep in strategy, and on Reddit it's all about the news of the new games coming out and stuff, and Twitter and YouTube is about reviews and things.
Right.
What ways do you like enjoying content for board gaming, and do you watch videos, do you listen to podcasts, what kind of stuff do you do?
Yeah, I do all three. I love I listen to a fair number of reviews, listen to and watch a fair number of reviews on YouTube, and on a couple different podcasts, a number of different podcasts. There are a few blogs that I read. It feels like there are fewer people that are creating written content, but I still enjoy places like Board Game Quest, the Meeple Street, some great written blogs about board games. Those are some of my favorites. But I also, up and coming, this is related to you and I'm going to blank on the other creator, but there are two YouTubers, you and this other person that I'm forgetting right now, that put out, you seem to talk a lot about either a topic or the news.
Yeah.
And I'm loving that content because it's I don't know what it is exactly. It's just very refreshing to see someone sit down and be like, hey, I'm really excited about this right now, and people are talking about it, and I want to talk about it. I'm just going to film it and put it out there. That's awesome to me. I love how quickly it can happen. Is that how, like, what is your process for creating one of your videos? Do you just sit down and go, or?
A little bit of that. So I have like 4 different types of videos that I'm making now. So I do the traditional board game review, and I've got this camera right here, and then I got like a top-down view. And so, like, in those videos, I talk about what the game is supposed to try and feel like, and what I think it's trying to say, and then how it delivers on that feeling by explaining some of the key components. And so that's kind of the format I've fallen into. However, I found that those review videos are getting the least amount of views. The other stuff I put out are interviews like the one I'm doing with you, but also the news content, which, people are excited about stuff to get excited about. And maybe a review of Dominion is not as exciting to watch. And I think it's clear that, when Wingspan AR comes out, that is way more interesting than the 100th review of Dominion. And so for me, when I'm like looking at stuff coming out, my co-founder Phil is all about marketing right now. He's sending me links of news stories or interesting topics. I do the research and I try and make a video that's compelling, but it's definitely not my forte. So I'm learning just do it a lot, and be okay with it not turning out as well, or maybe I didn't research enough because I am like wanting to be the first video out there. So that's been an interesting thing to learn. But the only other video person doing news was the Cardboard Herald that I know about, Jack Eddy. And so there's others that are out there that come out a few weeks after, and Shut Up and Sit Down has a good newsletter about news once a week as well. But I think that's the process for me, just learning, because I'm not the best writer, and I can't like script or storyboard out very well, so I'm just learning how to just get it out the first time and do it better, and that just takes videos every day. So that's my goal, is like 1 video a day releasing, so that I can get better at speaking and get better at delivering the information that I've been researching.
Right. Well, I think it's great that you're doing that. I think a lot of creators maybe struggle with putting even that first video out there because they're afraid that it won't be perfect. I know whenever I film one of my video reviews, I know it's not going to be or not my reviews, but my favorite game mechanism. I know it's not going to be perfect. I'm okay with that. Yeah. And I did remember while you were talking, the other channel is Roll for Crit.
Oh yeah,
the channel that's doing kind of news or things that they're excited about. I love watching their channel for that reason as well.
Yeah, I really like the quality of the content they put out too. Are you gonna create a podcast? Do you have a podcast at some point?
I technically now do, but it's not really a podcast.
Okay.
Someone reached out to me a few weeks ago and volunteered to basically create a podcast from my Sunday sit down videos and from my Facebook Live videos. So they were just turning that into an audio file and putting it on a subscribable format, I think on iTunes. So technically, yeah, but not really. I mean, that barely counts.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy because like I've learned like a lot of people have either like 1 to 2 different ways that they consume media, either written, video, or audio, and having all 3 channels, even if you're saying the same thing across all of them, you're going to get one of them from like the different type of people there are. And I know I consume most of my info through audio podcasts, and because I own Board Game Atlas, I watch the videos and I read the articles, but I enjoy podcasts the most. And I don't even listen to that many, but I do enjoy like the shut up and sit down one. I think that's their best form of entertainment because their acting and things are interesting, but they're able to really speak well and describe games in a way that I can imagine really well. And so I love the podcast that they have.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I subscribe to their YouTube channel and it's fun entertainment, but I often forget about their podcast. So I might need to find a way to subscribe to that too.
Yeah. I don't think I have any more questions or thoughts, but is there anything that you want to announce or tell users? Like maybe you can tell me some details of your upcoming games like Sand or something and give me the full scoop.
Can't do that yet.
Okay.
what can I tell you that would be interesting for you? Well, okay, so here, I can't really be specific either, but I did have a really fun phone call yesterday with a producer of animated content who is interested in one of our properties for probably not a film, probably a TV series. And it's just purely hypothetical. It's the type of thing where they're gonna put together a pitch, and they're gonna pitch it to the types of people who would pay for that type of thing. But it's exciting just to be a part of one of those conversations, to see a board game brought to life in animated form on a place like Netflix or TV. So I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm excited by the possibility.
Yeah, I'm. You didn't say the game, but I'm imagining mechs of some sort in this, and just wondering if that's going to be someday. Well, that's cool. I just really love your games, and everything that comes out, I like to pre-order right away right now, and I feel very excited that there's companies like yours, and I think I am comparing, like when I talk with my co-founder Phil, like when we're talking about Root and Leader games, like the excitement we have for their up-and-coming ones like Fort and Oath Chronicles of Empire and Exile, we're like, Leader Games seems to be growing into another staple company, publisher like Stonemaier, where every title we get excited for. And so I feel like great job with what you've been doing, and continue to make high-quality games and grow your business. I think it's been awesome to be a part of, and I play Viticulture and Tuscany Essential Edition, and it's been so fun. So I love it.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I feel the same way about certain companies where no matter what they put out, I may not even buy it, but I'm going to be excited about it and I'm going to check it out. And I love that we're in a hobby where it's okay to get excited about stuff that we know nothing about. That means a lot that you said that about my company. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for chatting with me, Jamey. If people want to find you or follow you, what are the best ways to do that?
The hub for everything is StoneMaierGames.com. There they can find this new podcast that I mentioned, the YouTube channel, the Facebook, the Instagram, all that stuff.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you, and keep doing great stuff.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
All right.